Brooksaw Antiques here. Today we have this 1947 Smith Corona Silent vintage portable typewriter. I'm going to show you how to use the functions and make sure they all work. Up top is the adjustable paper guide. It helps you guide the page in straight. I'm going to line that up with the edge of the platen, which is the main roller. And the paper fingers up front are also adjustable, so I'm just going to load the page and then kind of set those. This is the paper bell that sits on top and holds the page down. So we got 2 paper fingers, a paper bail with 3 rollers, and these paper support arms that flip up from the back. So this is a very luxury typewriter for Smith Corona. Very fancy. So we're testing the margins and they're pretty close to those edges. We're just going to leave it the way it is. Once you hear the bell, you're at the end of the margin. You hit this line of space, get you back to the beginning, and skips 1 or 2 spaces. Right now we have it on single, but if you want double, you just flip that switch to the front and it skips 2. You flip it to the back, it just skips 1. We're going to keep that on single for now and finish typing. As you can see, all the keys type nice and none of them skip or stick. I'll type a sentence in red on the next line to switch from black to red. There's a switch on the right side here. You flip it all the way down, it prints the bottom portion of the ribbon. When you have it in the middle, it prints no ink at all. It just prints a stencil for copying purposes. When you have it on top, it prints the top portion of the ribbon. We're going to keep that down for red. Beautiful typing machine. It's labeled as a silent. It's not very silent. It's quieter than most typewriters, but I would rather label this as smooth. So instead of Smith Corona Silent, I would have labeled it as smooth. Very smooth. To pull the page out easy, there's a switch on the right side here. You flip it forward and it unlocks the rollers underneath the platen, allowing you to pull the page out easy or load thicker paper like carbon copy or cardstock. Make sure you flip that back before you load the next page, or else it won't load correctly. We're going to flip these down. So yeah, it's very smooth, like just everything about it, and the sound. It's quieter. It's much quieter than your average typewriter. We're going to put that back up to the blue to print the top portion of the ribbon. Shift on each side and the shift lock on the left to clear that. Hit the shift button again. Above that is the space, backspace. Works good. On the right side we have the tab function. This has a manual tab. So you set them by manually inserting these little inserts anywhere on this rack. So right now we have, I think 10, 30, 40, 50. So when you hit that tab button, it just stops at each one of those little inserts. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Works good. Open the hood, all the brand new ribbons loaded on the left side, so it's pulling to the right. If you want to switch that direction, you just flip that switch down and it pulls to the opposite direction. Flip it down again. So it's just like a continuous, just flip down to keep switching it. I don't want to break it, but it won't break. Very well designed and manufactured. Smith Corona made some really nice typewriters back in this era. And right here is your touch control. The further up you go, the more tension there is when you hit the keys. The keys respond faster, but you do have to hit them harder for them to print. The lower you go, you don't have to hit them as hard. Very easy, like a computer, but they don't respond as fast. So more advanced typers would use the high touch control. Margin release. So when you get to the end of the margin, there's a mechanism that locks you from typing. If you hit that margin release on the right side there, it will allow you to go all the way to the end unless you get stuck on that paper finger. So let's test it without that paper finger in the way. Blocking, margin release, works good. Carriage release on each side, made out of metal. Everything's metal on this. I don't think there's one plastic part of this whole entire typewriter, which is insane. But this is how it was back in that era. Nobody made plastic back then, so you just have some of the best parts ever, and they won't make these like this again. Everything's made out of plastic now. They break and it's not calibrated correctly, and nobody in there knows what they're doing. You really have to go with these vintage typewriters to get something that works good. And if you pull this little knob out of the end here and turn the knob, you can get to an exact spot on the page without having to deal with the clicks. When you push it in, you get those clicks. Each one of those clicks is one space. And that's it. Now available on eBay or Etsy. Search Brooksaw Antiques.